Each day, chemists at the Oklahoma City Police Department analyze suspicious substances confiscated by street officers. Much of their time is spent conducting chemical tests on various controlled drugs. The chemist's expert analysis will be used later in court to prove the state's case. But for the past couple of years, a strange phenomenon has been occurring. About half the time, the drugs turn out to be uncontrolled substances, like caffeine or acetaminophen. That's the painkiller used in Tylenol. The turkey drugs are packaged to appear like illicit drugs. They may be the same size, shape, and color of their controlled counterparts. Only close examination reveals the subtle differences between the legal and the illegal substances.
Yes, Detective Smith? That black molly we thought was amphetamine was caffeine, not controlled. Okay, thank you.
Legal or not, the turkey drugs can still be dangerous.
The fake black molly contains caffeine, which has a stimulant effect similar to that of the real black molly, which could be amphetamine. However, the caffeine could be harmful if taken too much of it.
It's still not illegal to possess turkey drugs in Oklahoma, but the state legislature has taken some steps to make sure the turkey drug traffic doesn't get out of hand. For example, last session, the legislature passed a law making it a misdemeanor to knowingly sell turkey drugs and represent it as the real thing. Scott Wallace, Action 4 at the state capitol.
I think that the American people have to be patient. I think Wall Street has to get a little guts. Traditionally, they have not been. They've sought, as is true to life, their own self-interest. I understand that. But I think if President Reagan remains consistent in his leadership, that he will maintain enough public support that in 10 months his policies will be taking hold and we will see a dramatic effect on the economy. I just happen to think, and I'm not an economist, but as a political observer in Washington, I think it's too soon, simply too soon to judge his policies. I think he probably will make further cuts.
As thousands of union supporters gathered in Washington today, members of at least 6 different unions in the Oklahoma City area rallied at Trosper Park. The Solidarity Day was to unite union members and demonstrate their anger at the Reagan administration's economic and social policies. Floyd Donworth says that unions are the backbone of the working people, and there's a real need to make their voice heard in the nation. Union supporters don't feel President Reagan should have fired the PATCO strikers.
Ronald Reagan has given us a bad time. Ronald Reagan has fired people that he put out a letter that he supported them, that he supported their movement, that he supported the safety in the skies, and all of PATCO, and then he put them all out of a job.
Solidarity forever.
Here at home, the unions don't feel the Midwest City sanitation workers have gotten a fair shake. They plan to show up at a scheduled meeting Tuesday night in Midwest City to stick up for the fired city employees. In addition, today's rally pledged support to fight for the passage of the Equal Rights Amendment. On hand was Sarah Nelson from Washington, who said ERA supporters and labor are working together across the nation.
We are with them nationally as well as locally, and we wanted to show that support. Also, we wanted to point out the importance of the ERA to women workers, because without the Equal Rights Amendment, we are not going to get an improvement in the job situation that we need for women, particularly the pay equity problem.
There are indications which point to more labor rallies in the future. As one union member said, we have to stick together or we'll die. Carol Lambert, Action 4 in Trosper Park.
With a title like Wolfen, you obviously assume the movie has something to do with wolves. Well, in this case, you're right, but it may not be exactly what you think. If I had to describe this film in one word, it would have to be interesting. I mean, the actual word is interesting. Albert Finney portrays an ex-detective. He had been fired because of personal problems, but he's now asked to help solve a series of puzzling and grisly murders. Helping Finney is a newcomer, Diane Verona. She plays a psychologist who thinks terrorists are responsible for the killings. Now, while watching this movie, of course, I was trying to figure out who or what was doing the killings. Come to find out, I was on the right track, but I still was thoroughly surprised at various times, particularly close to the end of the picture.
Don't do it. Don't even think. John!
Your television set is all right. Those strange colored scenes in the clip are what I found to be an extremely good effect. What happens is you see the action through the eyes of the killers, like this. No, I'm not radioactive, that's just what happens. Director Michael Wadley, Director Michael Wadley, cinematographer Jerry Fisher, and all the technical crew do an excellent job. Another thing that impressed me is that you don't see a lot of the gore, as in American Werewolf in London. Much is left up to the imagination. Now, you do see some, but they could have easily let you see a bunch, but they don't. One of my favorite characters in the film is a wild and hip coroner played by Gregory Hines. Some of the scenes between Hines and Albert Finney while Hines is dissecting bodies, believe it or not, are actually funny. The ending of the picture, well, I've got to admit, left me ever so slightly disappointed. But let me quickly add, it doesn't really take away from the overall action. The performances are very good, the technical aspects are very good. So if you want an unusual, different type movie, which is thought-provoking, see Wolfen. It packs a lot of bite.
But we deplore a city manager that has a pharaohic Hitler.
Then one day, ministered by Wheat Street Baptist Church.
But we deplore a city manager that has a pharaohic Hitleristic approach to a simple problem of people wanting to work. We deplore a city manager that attempts to cover up racism with anti-labor words. We've come, as my brother, Mr. Brown, to work with you, to do anything that we can to correct this situation. But we have also come to tell these sanitation workers, if they want to go to jail for the cause, we will fill the jails in New York.
Barry Manilow is 35 years old. It's been said he's one of the most dynamic forces in the entertainment world today. In concert, 14 musicians and singers appear on stage with him. And it's some stage. Manilow performs on a specially built revolving stage that took 10,000 hours to construct. Watching him do a sound check, you can tell he's a perfectionist. That may very well be the main reason each of his 9 albums has sold at least 1 million copies. Manilow has won numerous awards, including a Grammy, Tony, and an Emmy. He's come a long way since the time he started taking accordion lessons when he was 7.
As far as your start, you grew up in Brooklyn. It's my understanding you started off as a clerk in the CBS mailroom.
One of the jobs. It was one of the jobs. I tried everything. But it was a pretty good job, though. It was the thing that kicked me off because there were a lot of pianos around. Even though I was delivering mail, there were a lot of pianos in rehearsal halls. I would sneak away and play piano, and I would get offers to play piano outside of the job.
In an interview before his concert at the Myriad, Manilow told us that he always enjoys performing in Oklahoma City.
I was here twice with Bette Midler, and I think I've been here twice by myself, but I'm not sure. But I tell you something, I remember Oklahoma City as being one of the friendliest cities that I played on every tour, even during Bette's tour. I try to insist that we include Oak City all the time. That's why we're here.
Barry Manilow may enjoy playing Oklahoma City, but not nearly as much as his fans enjoy him playing here. In fact, he was given 3 encores during his appearance. Ben McCain, Action 4, The Myriad.
Last November, the Libertarian Party had a first in the state of Oklahoma. Libertarian candidates were placed on the election ballot. It was touch and go for a while because prior to the election, opponents claimed the Libertarian candidates were not registered for the required length of time, and the candidates were removed from the ballot. That decision was appealed by the third party in federal court, and the law was struck. Libertarians were recognized as a legal political party. But now, because of restrictions in placing a third party on the ballot, the whole process must start over. To get on the 1982 ballot, the Libertarian Party must collect almost 60,000 signatures from registered voters in the state and file them with the election board. The first step of that process began today with the party officially filing their intent to start the petition. Party Chairman Lynn Krussell is optimistic they will be able to get the required number because she feels a great deal of support for the basic philosophy of the Libertarian Party.
The Libertarian Party is a political party that believes that individuals have the right to their life, their liberty, and their property. That individuals have the right to do as they choose so long as they do not initiate force or perpetrate fraud against other individuals. They believe that individuals own their own property, they own their own life, and they own the fruits of their own labor, and that no one has the right to take any of those things from them.
The Libertarian Party currently has a lawsuit in the Court of Appeals in Denver. If the suit is won for the party, it would do away with the excessive signature requirement in the state of Oklahoma, and as Krussell says, bring a greater freedom of choice to the people. Carol Lambert, Action 4, at the state
Today,
capitol.
we're going to file our intention. We'll file this little paper right here.
As we reported earlier in the newscast, the hostage situation in far southeast Oklahoma City is over. After 11 grueling hours of negotiations for Oklahoma City police, the suspect decided to make a break for it about 3:30 this morning. He took his victim with him. Police held their fire, fearing that they might hit the hostage. The hostage broke away from his captor as they tried to jump a fence, and he was led to safety and reunited with his family. Police continued searching for the suspect for over an hour before they captured him. The suspect was 26-year-old Danny Ray Saunders, who has a history of armed robbery convictions. He is being treated at South Community Hospital for a bullet wound to the hip. Reporting for Action 4 AM, Ted Brown.
This is the place where the overnight ordeal began, an armed robbery at Hurryback Foods on Southeast 29th. It's pretty much business as usual today, but workers are still reminded of the robbery, and they can't understand why someone would put so many lives in danger for less than $200. After the robbery, the chase began, ending at this house on Huddleston. No one is home at the Peter Cho house today, but Cindy DeLulu lives right across the street from where the hostage was taken.
Like I said, you always think it's going to be the other guy. When it's that close, it hits a little closer to home. It makes you realize you're not quite as immortal as you think from day to day.
Across town today, many of the officers who had worked all night negotiating were at a graduation ceremony for new police officers.
And in fact, I think we got home about 6 o'clock this morning from a hostage situation. And so that's just part of the police service. So,
One wonders whether these newly graduated officers are prepared for a situation like last night's.
The officers graduating today have undergone 19 weeks of intensive training that will prepare them to respond to situations such as occurred last night. Additionally, they are going to spend several months in a car with a master patrolman, a senior police officer, and receive actual on-the-job training from him, the true procedures.
Oklahoma City police officials are happy with the way they performed last night, and they're confident these new city police officers will be able to handle a similar situation. Mark Pardee, Action 4.
The Oklahoma State Fair is supposed to be the largest 10-day fair in North America. Officials here are expecting to break attendance records this year, hoping to hit a guest mark of 1.5 million. The size and the expectations are significant this year especially, since the fair is part of the statewide celebration of Oklahoma's 75th year. There's plenty to do at the fair this year. There will be the traditional concerts and rodeos and the such. In fact, the organizers promise something for everyone.
Part of President Reagan's tax break for the American people will begin next week. A new kind of money market will be offered, which will give investors tax-free interest up to $2,000. It's called the All Savers Certificate, and it just may be your best bet. Recently, money market mutual funds have gotten all the attention. Offered by brokerage firms, they've been paying around 17% interest and can be cashed in at any time without a penalty. But of course, you have to pay taxes on any interest that you earn. Well, next week, banks and other thrift institutions will offer All Savers certificates. If you file a joint return, you can make up to $2,000 in interest and not pay taxes on it. If you're single, the ceiling's $1,000. The All Savers are for a one-year period and will pay an interest rate of 70% of the current yield on Treasury bills. Right now, that's about 12.5%. And because Congress wants all Americans to take advantage of the new money market, you can get one for as little as $500. Along with the tax break, Congress had more than that in mind when creating the certificate. They hope it helps home buyers.
The motivation behind it was to provide funds for the housing industry. And so the financial institution must invest these funds in mortgages or mortgage-related kinds of obligations.
The new All Savers certificates are not a permanent fixture in the banking industry. They'll only be offered until the last day in 1982. Carol Lambert, Action 4. It's an expensive 20-second pull down the track. Tractors here cost anywhere from $15,000 to $60,000. And of course, if you pull a little too hard, there's the expense of fixing the engine. But a lot of these guys feel it's worth it.
Golly.
They say it's like taking a vacation from work. At today's pull, drivers came from all directions: Iowa, Texas, Illinois, Kansas, and along with the drivers came, of course, families and friends. In the Superstock lineup, Steve Kenneman was a favorite today. He has a reputation for moving that 54,000-pound sled over the line. Well, did he do it? He did.
I think you had a pretty good pull over there. How do you feel?
We're pretty happy about it. It always feels good to make it all the way through.
What was your secret?
Luck, mostly. It's getting the weight right and just getting the tractor right. You know, getting it where it won't blow apart.
You're not going to give away your secret ingredients, huh?
Well, just hard work mostly is what it is.
Hard work and luck will divvy up $18,000 in prize money this weekend. But you know, from the look on their faces, I think they'd do it for free. Carol Lambert, Action 4 at the State Fair.
Some people would say that Oklahoma is best known for two things: the State Fair and bluegrass fiddling. Well, there wouldn't be any argument from the people at the Fiddling Festival under the pavilion top at the fair this afternoon. Fiddlers from across the state ascended the stage, put the fiddle to their chin, and let the music fly. There are different techniques to fiddling. Some people go at it with body and soul. Others approach it with a certain eloquence and dignity. The music attracts as many different onlookers as it does musicians. There are the toe tappers, the talkers, and the enthralled. And then there are some who just find the shade as good a place as any to relax from the long day at the fair. There are fiddlers of all ages. Monty Gaylord is 18, a third the age of some contestants. He's only been fiddling for 4 years, but he's already made it to the Grand Masters.
Well, my mom got me a banjo for Christmas about a little over, it was about 5 years ago. No, it's about 7 years ago she got that. And anyhow, I seen it laid in the house, you know, for like a year before I ever picked it up. And now, you know, until about 4 years ago, I played banjo for about 2 years. And then I don't know, I had listened to fiddlers down there, and I don't know, the music just makes you want to learn, you know.
There is a link that joins nearly all fiddlers, a brotherhood of sorts, but some of the ties that bind are thicker than violin string. Dave Gaylord is Monty's 4-year-old brother. He's been learning the strings for 3 months now, learning to play by ear and from the heart, under the tutelage of his older brother. Charles Schnitzer, Action 4.
Two young men are in the hospital after taking a corner too fast at Lake Overholser and sliding into a tree. The driver, 20-year-old Gary Goodlett, is listed in stable condition at Baptist Hospital. The passenger, 23-year-old Terry Trueblood, is in critical condition. Trueblood was trapped in the car for a short time until firemen could remove several pieces of metal that were holding him in. Sherry Sellers, Action 4 AM.
I'm Charles Schnetzer. The Oklahoma State Fair can be a place full of fun for all ages, but for two young girls who disappeared over the weekend, it was a place of potential danger. Authorities believe a man approached the girls and offered them a job. They've not been heard from since. A lot of young girls work for the fair, in concessions and games along the midway, but fair officials say the girls were not offered a job by a fair employee. How can other teenagers know if a job offer is legitimate? Pat Pullman explains.
If someone is in doubt of who they're talking with or has any question about employment, they should first of all contact a police officer who will be in the area. If not, they should look for a fair staff employee who will be wearing an identifying blue and gold badge that I'm wearing, or they should go to one of the exhibit halls and check with the person at that office, and there should be an office and is in every exhibit hall we have at the fair.
Pullman says all the jobs at the fair are filled before the fair opens. The state employment agency handles interviews and does the hiring. Police will continue to walk beats and generally be visible throughout the length of the state fair, and anyone is encouraged to go to the police for assistance or help if they encounter any kind of trouble. Charles Schnetzer, Action 4, at the state fair. Yesterday's order by the state Supreme Court has sparked controversy across Oklahoma. The court upheld a 12-year-old gang rape victim as a ward of the state and said that she was entitled to an abortion for medical reasons over the religious objections of her mother. Now, abortion is a sensitive issue, but a spokeswoman for the National Organization for Women says that it is not the correct issue in this case.
The courts have in the past made decisions very similar to this one, in that if the parents of children didn't believe in hospital care or in surgery or different, whatever their religious belief was, and yet the child's life was at stake, if they were not treated medically, then the courts have come in numerous times and decided that the court had and the state had the right to make sure that the children or a child was, taken care of medically. And this is basically the same order, is that the child has the right.
The court took a lot of power away from the girl's parents by declaring the girl deprived. Apparently she was not an abused child, there were no family problems. It was simply because she was pregnant, and the court did this in order to take the power away from the parents so they could determine what the girl could and couldn't do. And of course, the second reason, we feel that the state Supreme Court passed a death sentence on an innocent baby. Now, this baby had not committed any crime, had not broken any law, but is sentenced to die. I doubt very much that the same court would impose a death sentence on the 3 boys that committed the rape.
Abortion is now legal, so the question here is one of right, the girl's right to have an abortion over the mother's right to object. Well, the court order yesterday merely says that in this particular case, when the girl faced possible danger, the decision had to be hers. Charles Schnetzer, Action 4.
The way the system works now, there are 3 commissioners representing each county. But under a system being studied by the legislature, these men would only serve as advisors, with the county manager making the decisions.
That's the way city government works. The city council meets to approve certain items for the city, but the day-to-day operations of city government are handled by a city manager. It's a different story at the county level. 3 commissioners represent certain wards or districts in Oklahoma's 77 counties. Under the proposed new system, 1 man would be put in charge, and there are those who have doubts about that kind of arrangement.
I think there's one more point that should be considered, and that is that this takes the right of the people to select this individual. Rather, he will be pointed by a political system as such. And I don't think that this is right. I'm very much in favor of the voters getting involved more than they are today.
Material from them unless they have the contract with the state.
In the meantime, county commissioners will continue to operate as they have. Lawmakers would have to approve a county manager system, and lawmakers don't meet until January. And probably until then, more changes will be discussed. Bella Shaw, Action 4 at the county courthouse.
A new law that goes into effect today strengthens the punishment of motorists who drive without the state's compulsory $10,000 liability insurance on their vehicles. From now on, uninsured motorists face not only the loss of their license, but a $250 fine, or 30 days in jail, or both. Accidents involving damage in excess of $300 must be reported to the Department of Public Safety, and they in turn investigate the status of insurance on all parties involved. By law, motorists are required to carry what insurance companies refer to as 10-20-10 liability insurance on their vehicles, or face the new punishment which begins today. For Action 4, this is Ray Vaughn with Legal Briefs.